This is episode 2 of the Empower Me Parents podcast, and today we're talking about exam season. Welcome to the Empower Me Parents podcast, a proudly South African podcast for parents of high school students. Your child's success and all the rest is our mission. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach, Nicole van Rensburg. Let's do this. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited that you're here listening to the show. Ordinarily, I'd be releasing an episode every 2 weeks or so, but seeing as though it's game time, I thought I'd release the next 2 episodes in rapid fire to help you prepare for exam time. Yay! And I'm sure most of you are not feeling yay about it at all. Well, I hope after the next 2 episodes, you're going to feel a little bit more positive and a little more prepared. And so we'll grow and get stronger every exam season, not only for your children, but for you as a family. Exam time can be quite stressful for everybody, and it's important that you as a family decide how you want to go forward and how you want to look at exams. So today's episode, I want to start off with a little quote. And this quote is from a very wise man who has been dead for quite some time, but he's very wise nonetheless. This man is Benjamin Franklin, and his quote was, "He who fails to plan is planning to fail." Now, I've simplified that for my students when I coach them at school, and I've simplified it to failing to plan is planning to fail. And every time I tell them this quote, their minds blow up, and they're like, "Ma'am, you're so harsh. What is happening? Why are you giving us this harsh reality?" And the fact of the matter that I'm trying to share with them is that they have to have a plan. And today, our topic is creating an exam sanctuary. Now, people are so obsessed with preparing for the exams and getting the schedule and the actual studying, which is super important, of course. But all the planning around it to set them up for success is incredibly important. If we look at the word sanctuary, one of the definitions that I found online is a place of refuge and protection. Now, I'm not sure if you've thought of putting exam and sanctuary together. But in my mind, if I think of an exam sanctuary, it's a place where a student feels safe, comfortable, and supported enough to be willing to do the work, to lean into difficult concepts and overcome, and of course, to lower stress. Stressed states, and I'm sure everyone is so overloaded with the impact of stress, but stressful states, not only in adults, but in children as well, can affect memories. And how it affects memory in the brain is that it actually makes it difficult for your brain to take short-term memories and turn them into long-term memories. And that is the last thing that we need during exam time. And that is also very often why a lot of the children and students and teens that I've coached feel like they need to cram the night before because they're so terrified that what they are studying is going to go out their brain because they've experienced it. They've been in a stressed state and been unable to access what is in their brain, or it never got stored in the first place. So I find students that are studying through the night, which sounds very noble and it sounds very dedicated, but they're burning themselves out and increasing the stress, increasing the cortisol in their bodies, which is not what we want. We want to enter an exam in a calm state, in a state where we feel like we can access that which we've studied, we've conquered the barriers that we've had. And that is what I want to do in the next 2 episodes, is to try and cultivate and start to create that atmosphere. So exam sanctuary is today's topic, as I said, and we're going to break it down into a couple of simple things that you can do to change and create this beautiful space for your child to study in. And I'm calling them your child, even though they're a teen and they don't want to be called a child. They are still your child. And our role as a parent is to try and create the atmosphere for them. And sometimes it might mean buying something small, and something small is not necessarily going to have a massive impact, but whatever impact it has, it takes them in the right direction to get the best out of them. And that's what we want for them. Of course, we want them to be successful. So let's get started. All right, I'll post this in the show notes, the list, so that you have a checklist to go through. Some of them might already be in place, but let's go. All right, so the first one, super simple, a desk and a comfortable chair. Cannot stress enough how important it is for your child or your teen to study at a desk. They always have these beautiful, grandiose thoughts of, I can study on my bed, I've done it before. But let's just think about it a bit. What is our bed? Our bed is something we've been conditioned since birth to be a place where we sleep. So of course, doesn't matter what position they take, if they lie or sit or do some yoga pose to try and keep them awake, their brain is being told that it's time to sleep. So we want to avoid bed studying as far as possible. Also to avoid is on a couch. Couch is not great. It's also super comfortable. It's also a place where they go to relax. They go to watch TV. So their brain has not been conditioned and their body's not been conditioned to concentrate or focus or be in a learning state on a couch. Now, depending on your circumstances at home, it might be challenging, but it doesn't have to be an expensive desk. If you can't afford a desk, we could look at creating something. There are many options online of creating a study desk using found and recycled resources. So that's not on the topic today, but let's try and get a desk in a room where they can focus and concentrate. Now, if we get to the chair, everybody's body is different, and what chair is comfortable for one person might not be comfortable for the next person. So we need to look at what we can do to make the chair comfortable to sit for long periods of time. Even though we'll discuss how we can break up those long periods of time, we might need a little cushion behind the back, or they might need a cushion under the bum. We never know. So make sure that you explore these things with your teen to make sure that the space that they're working in is comfortable as possible with the budget and with the resources that you have. All right, so that's one. Number two, the actual desk, if they do have this all in place, needs to be completely clear of distractions. So what tends to happen, and I am absolutely testament to this, the desk becomes a sort of graveyard for all things we don't know where to put them. So, or papers or whatever, cups. So we need to completely clear that desk. And the reason why we want to clear that desk is we want to minimize anything that's going to get your brain busy. And I know this seems radical and very strange, but what actually happens is that our brains take in everything, every second, every object. And what your brain does then is it filters whether it's important or not. And if it is important in your life, then your brain processes and it brings it to your conscious mind for you then to think about. So we don't want this when we're studying. So we want to try and clear the desk of everything. So if you have a lot of stuff on the desk and you don't have the capacity to clean it, or your child doesn't have the capacity, which is most of the time, to clean it, just get a box and chuck it all in there. So we're not throwing it away yet. We can deal with that after exams, but at least just get it off the desk. Wipe the desk beautifully clean so that there's no coffee stains, because even a coffee stain can get the brain going. And depending on how much your child loves coffee or how much your child loves tea or hot chocolate, that stain can trigger in their brain, ooh, I love hot chocolate. Oh man, I love hot chocolate. Do we have hot chocolate? I wonder if mommy will make me some hot chocolate. Oh, I love chocolate. Oh, I should not eat chocolate. Chocolate is bad. And all of those thoughts happen in your brain. That's just, that's just a crazy version of what our brains do. And it's not necessarily consciously happening. We're not aware of this. But your brain is using power on processing that which is on the desk or that which is important in our lives. So clear the desk, no distractions. The next one we're looking at is lighting. Now, the lighting is super, super important. When we are looking at a lighting, and especially if their desk is in their bedroom, we generally organize the bedroom in such a way that it's moody and it helps us to get to sleep. But if you're wanting to study in the bedroom, that moody, warm, comforting lighting is going to be the polar opposite of what you need to study. So we've got to get a midway. We've got to get that Goldilocks vibe. We've got to get it bright enough that it keeps them alert, that they can see everything clearly, that there's not funny shadows on their work, which is also super annoying. And we don't want it too bright either, that they're going to feel like they need sunglasses and it hurts the eyes to look at their pages. So how you can achieve that is a really good desk lamp. And the desk lamp doesn't have to be expensive. That's not where the money we want to spend lies. What we actually want to spend money on is a really good globe. The globe is super crucial. And what we found quite commonly now, which never used to be like this, is daylight globes. So if you go and look at the hardware store and have a look and ask them, or the lighting places, please ask them for a daylight globe that fits into your desk lamp. Now, when you put this daylight globe into the desk lamp, it's going to be very bright because it simulates the sun. And we want it to simulate the sun because when the sun is shining, our brains are awake. Or generally, well, we hope they're awake. So that's going to help for alertness. But we don't want to shine that lamp directly onto their work. So they need to point it at a wall so that it diffuses the light a little bit enough to light the area and not harsh direct lighting. Okay, that's lighting. Next up, fresh air and airflow. Now, with the exception of the last couple of days, I'm now recording this just after our super weird cold front in Gauteng. It was just bizarre. After it being super hot, it was super cold and everyone is sick. So in general, South African summers, it is super hot. And I don't know what the airflow is like in your child's room, but it's something we need to consider. The brain needs oxygen to be able to concentrate. Obviously, we need oxygen to live, but we need enough oxygen to concentrate. And we also need our bodies to be at a good temperature that's not too hot. So if we're looking at airflow, we want to get the fresh air moving through the window and throughout the room. So it's not enough necessarily just to open a window. We want the air to move and to circulate and to get all the old air out. I know that's not a real word, but it is now. Old air out, fresh air in. And that can be achieved with a fan. And also, once again, we don't put the fan directly on your child. It's not a good idea. They could get cold. And anything that can cause distraction or cause some form of procrastination is what we don't want. So we just want to point it at a wall, have it sucking in the nice fresh air just to get the air moving in the room. And that'll help them to feel cool and help them to feel at a good temperature to be able to concentrate. Okay, so that's fresh air. Next up, we're looking at sound distraction. Now, most of our children, and I'm generalizing, this is not for everybody, but most of our children are either auditory learners or they are visual learners. Now, a lot of them are visual because they watch a lot of TV and iPad and all of that. But auditory learners or auditory people generally get distracted or they learn through sound. So we're now looking at the sound aspect and how it could cause distraction or how it could support. So first of all, let's look at minimizing distraction of sound. So depending on where your child is going to be studying, as much as possible, we want it to be a separate room away from the TV, away from the kitchen, and away from the busyness of the household. If that is not something that you can achieve logistically, there are a few options. So option number one, which works for some kids and some not, is earplugs, foam earplugs. Now, I'm a woman with small ears, and I do find the general foam earplugs are quite big and it hurts my ears. At Dis-Chem, I've bought beautiful little pink ones. This is enough for the girls that are smaller for female ears. And you buy a whole packet and it lasts for ages. Or you can just look online and find a whole packet of foam earplugs, and then you roll them and then push them into your ears. And what they do is they really significantly lower sound. And we don't want to have any distractions when they are busy focusing, because once again, our beautiful brain is going to get distracted and start, bringing to our conscious mind things that are important to us that we don't necessarily want to focus on in that moment. All right, so that's one option. But some children find it very difficult to concentrate when it's quiet, because then their brains get busy and they start distracting themselves. So some students, like me, actually, when I was a student and still, I like to have some form of music in the background. I'm an auditory learner and music helps me to concentrate, but there's a caveat to this situation. We don't want any music that contains singing or lyrics, because the brain's going to concentrate on it and then distract. So I don't mind what type of music you're going to be playing or the child is going to be playing. It doesn't matter. There's beautiful instrumental, hip hop is very popular. So there's beautiful instrumental hip hop beats that, liven and give energy. There's beautiful things like lo-fi. Lo-fi is a little more relaxed. We get classical music. For some students, they love it. We can have any type of genre of music, and we just type in instrumental version of it. So instrumental country or instrumental Burumasic or instrumental whatever floats your boat and whatever your child likes to listen to. And it is super crucial, once again, that there are no lyrics and there's no singing, because you're going to either sing along or they are going to, be conscious of what the singer is trying to convey. And that is what we don't want. We want them to focus on the words and the lyrics of the study material, not the lyrics of the song. So if they find that any of those are useful and they use them, but there's a particularly difficult period or time of day when they really find it hard to focus, there's another option. And that option is called binaural beats. I'll link in the show notes to binaural beat options. Now, on any platform that you listen to, you can just type in binaural beats and you'll be able to find various options for concentration and for study. YouTube has also got a bunch of binaural beats. It's just better if you've got premium, because then there's no adverts popping up. So search binaural beats, concentration or study, and that really helps a lot when you are struggling. And if your child wants to give it a try, it does have a bit of a strange feel to it if you listen to it consciously. And initially they might think, oh, this is a bit weird. It's a bit sort of yoga studio. It's a bit sort of spa vibes. And it's not enjoyment music. But what binaural beats have in them is they have specific sound waves that stimulate brain function. And that's what we want. So they're designed to be, you'll hear it consciously initially, but eventually the sound goes into the back of your consciousness and it just helps support concentration. So I'm all about that. The final option is, of course, just typing in concentration music. That's another option, but really exploring and not limiting the impact that sound can have on concentration and studying environment. And it doesn't have to be in their earphones. It can literally be on a speaker across the room. If you're worried about the phone being a distraction, and we'll deal with that in a minute, but have the phone across the room and have the playlist or whatever sound music you're using in the background to create the atmosphere, that exam sanctuary we are looking for. Okay, our next topic and next option we're looking at is phone distraction. It's a real thing, everybody. We know this. There are hundreds and hundreds of videos online on how to, and articles to help your child with their phone, etc. This is an important conversation to have with your child. It's really, really important. And they know that they struggle with their phone, and as do we all. We really need to find ways of managing our phone usage. So there are various options when we're looking at having the phone still in the study room, because as I've just mentioned, we could have a playlist playing and that could then create atmosphere. But if we're looking at having the phone closer to the desk and we're using it maybe for a timer or whatever, which we'll also deal with, it's very, very important for you and your child to have an agreement of either turning off notifications of all the social media, including WhatsApp, or we put it on Do Not Disturb, or we uninstall temporarily the apps that cause distraction. And I find that the uninstalling temporarily is quite harsh, but is very useful for the children who really struggle to regulate their impulses to pick up the phone. So I know that iPhones have that option where you can uninstall, and that's more for storage purposes, but you uninstall it, but it still keeps all your data. And that is something you can really easily Google how to do, but I think that's an awesome option. And you agree to do so, say now 5 days a week, or you agree during exam time, you have it that way, and then after we can reinstall. Various options, but discuss this with your child and have the buy-in. If they don't buy in, it is going to be resistance vibes, and it's really going to be a challenging situation. And it's also something that they need to start learning. We know this. So we are getting their buy-in for them to be able to perform at their best. And they might initially have a lot of resistance and a lot of discomfort by not having access to the world, which they're so used to. But if you can gently guide them through it, or maybe if you are at home and you're able to support them and say, look, I'll do the same. let's do this together. Or if there's a sibling that's also studying, make sure it's not the one child only that's having to do this sacrifice. Maybe you as a family, you can decide on how you're going to sacrifice the phone connection that you have for a period of time when you need to concentrate. All right, so that's our phones. Obviously, we can go super deep on that, but we're going to carry on. And our next option, and super important that people very often discount, is a timer. It's really, really helpful to know how long you are studying and how long you are giving yourself to study. So this is where we have the gray area. If your child is able to regulate themselves with their phone, if they've uninstalled the apps that are causing distraction, they can use their phone for the sound and they can use their phone for a timer. Now, the timer is incredibly useful, and we'll go in a little bit deeper into that in our next session and how we're going to use that. But a timer is super helpful. So if the phone timer is going to be a distraction, Takealot.com has some super cute little digital timers that you can buy. There's even a pink one. It's about 150 Rand. They're almost like kitchen timers, but I prefer to get one that doesn't say kitchen on it because the word kitchen makes me hungry. So I generally choose a timer, but they've got pink ones, they've got blue ones. And investing in a really basic timer that is super easy to set up really will help them manage their studying time. And it also gives them sort of an idea of their pace, which is very helpful. Right, next up, organizing the study materials. So we want to try and minimize resistance to studying, and we want to try and minimize procrastination, which is something we'll discuss in our next episode as well. And how we can do that is by organizing the study materials by subject. Now, I don't know about your space constraints, but if it's possible, next to the desk or on the floor, even next to the desk, or even below the desk at the back, have a pile of the notes and the books and the textbooks for each subject, including whatever apparatus you need for that specific subject. We don't want to have your child sitting down for a study session and they must now go and dig and delve and find the notes that they need. It's enabling the procrastination habit, and it's not what we want. So we want to make it super easy, and that you can maybe assist them with, because overwhelm can get super real coming up to exam time. So if you can help them just organize that, take the burden, make the burden a little bit lighter, getting their books organized in piles. Super helpful. Next one, we're looking at snacks. Now, most people want snacks as an excuse to eat, which is, of course, a habit that we've all developed, which is super fun. But there is definitely something to having snacks available that are healthy, that are going to keep the energy levels up during study time. I'm not talking a snack platter from Checkers. I'm not talking about a Woolies, hectic situation. I'm talking about some basic snacks. If we're looking at some biltong, some droeworst, some nuts, if they can tolerate them, even olives, if they tolerate and enjoy them, grapes, easy little foods that they can pick up and just pop in their mouth to regulate their energy levels and to keep them from using the excuse of I'm hungry to get away from the books. So a really good little spot next to the desk, not on the desk, where they can just grab a snack if they're feeling a bit peckish. All right, along with that goes hydration, water, or tea, or any other hydration drinks that's going to make sure that they replenish all the salts and all the vitamins that we need in our body are very, very helpful. They need to have that close by so that they can just sip as they need, because being dehydrated also affects concentration. And especially when we get hot in SA, we want to have the hydration going so that we are not dehydrated and unable to concentrate. Along with that, something that I have noticed quite a lot is a lot of the high school kids are drinking a lot of Red Bull and Monster and all of these hectic energy drinks that are super delicious, of course. They've designed to be like that, but that are really not great for young bodies that are growing. And I would like to encourage you to maybe have a conversation with them about the effects of these drinks on their bodies, because if they're going to continuously drink these drinks with a high caffeine content, the high sugar content, and essentially making their blood like syrup, they are really affecting their health And they're going to have these energy boost, crash, and it's just not great for sustained energy and concentration throughout exam time. So that's something that I think is a good choice to have a conversation with your child. And this also includes soft drinks. There's a lot of sugar in that stuff. So if we're going to go for the sugarless, everyone thinks it's healthier, I suppose. But, artificial sugars are also not fantastic for the body, but they're a little bit better. So we really want to try and minimize all of those high sugar, high caffeine drinks so that they are maintaining natural energy through food and water and some of the tools that I'll teach you next week. Rightio. And our second last option that we're going to look at implementing or organizing is vitamins. All right. Now, a lot of people say that if you eat right, you don't need to eat your vitamins. But let's be honest, whose children eat all things? Very few. It takes quite a few years into adulthood to really develop the taste for certain foods that are good for you. And I know that it is a challenge to get your kids to eat everything that they should and a balanced, well, even to get yourself to eat a balanced meal. First of all, you don't like everything. Second of all, it's super expensive. So that's where vitamins come in, just to supplement where we are possibly deficient and where we possibly need more. So if we get a really good vitamin that is immune boosting, this is going to be super important to prevent illness, because generally when exams come, at some point when they are very stressed, they might get sick because their bodies just give in. And especially if they're doing all-nighters. So let's immune boost to boost immunity and energy. Along with that, a brain support supplement, including omega-3s, really, really good. They take some time to kick in. They take some time to have effect on your body, but really worth investing in. Final one, obviously there can be many more depending on what your doctor says. A concentration boost, one of these natural concentration boosters. They might need some help during this time. And something like Keen Mind or BioStrath, they're all natural supplements that could just help boost concentration. And whatever we can do to make the atmosphere an atmosphere of winning is what we want to do. Okay, everybody. So we're getting to the end of our exam sanctuary with the last couple of points that are going to tie into next week's session. So the next one is going to be to have a copy of your child's study schedule by their desk where their books are, on their door on the outside of where they're studying, as well as in the kitchen on the fridge. Now, the reason I say that is because it's incredibly important for everybody in the household to know what's happening. You don't want to be yelling at your child, why are you not studying, when they're actually on a legitimate break. And it's helpful to be mindful of checking their schedule to see, are they legitimately on break, or should they actually be studying? Maybe you could nudge them and encourage them to get back to their plan. So this will get into deeper next week, but that basic logistic really, really helps, so that if you walk past their room or you walk past the fridge or you see them somewhere, you know what the plan is, and you as a family can support each other by knowing what is happening and keeping each other accountable according to the exam plan. All right. Next up is to have a good conversation about all of the above. Everything we've discussed today with your teen, and have buy-in. Doesn't help you put all these beautiful, pretty things and they don't understand why is mommy faffing. What is happening? It is good to explain it all to them. They can even listen to this episode if they want to. It's not necessarily focused directly at them, but it's definitely useful. And have their buy-in to all of these things around the exams that are just going to support them to make it the best it can be. And to make the atmosphere, as we said, a place of safety, a place where they feel comfortable and less stressed, so that they can really achieve what they want to achieve. And that is my spiel for today. I'm super excited about all of this, and I really do believe it can have a big impact on your child's experience of exams as well as your own. So in next week's episode, we're going to look at the other elements of making exam time successful. We're going to be looking at managing concentration, energy levels, increasing motivation, and lowering stress, and much, much more. There's a lot more to it than just the logistical items in the room. We need to create more, and that is what we're going to do next week. So thank you so much for listening. If you want to rate this podcast, I'd really be super grateful. It'll help lift it up and make it more visible to those who maybe need to hear it. And if you have any comments, if you have questions, or if you have topic suggestions, by all means, please send me a mail and let me know what you want to hear more of, what you want to explore more of on this super exciting South African podcast. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Hey, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast and want to take things to a new level in your or your child's life, visit empowermecoachingsa.co.za and sign up for one of our personalized coaching programs. Let's do this. See you next time.